Hello friends, in the series on history of India from 1750s to 1857, we talked about the nature of the revolt of 1857 in one of the earlier lectures, and we will continue our lecture from that point of view, from that point where we were talking about the views of the various scholars with regard to the revolt of 1857, and we have already discussed about how revolt of 1857 was seen as some sort of a sepoy mutiny, how it was also seen as the war of independence by the nationalist scholars, how they have communicated this idea. They have also talked about the popular character of the revolt of 1857, and there are others, those who are the Cambridge scholars, and there are others, those who have talked about the elite character of the revolt of 1857. Apart from that, we also find that some of the scholars they also talk in the framework of the peasant participation, that how peasant participation was very important at that point of time, and how the people, those who were associated with the revolt, they wanted to free Hindustan of the foreign yoke. So scholars like Rajat Ray see it in this perspective, and scholars like Ranjit Guha they have argued from that perspective, from the point of view of the subaltern studies. And Ranjit Guha generally finds that the peasants, they had this kind of a consciousness. They were very well aware that with what things they were getting associated with, and their participation was very important with regard to the revolt of 1857. And if we see the readings, as I have told you earlier as well, that these kind of readings like P.C. Joshi's Rebellion 1857, a symposium, V.D. Savarkar's Indian War of Independence, Vishnu Bhatt Godse's memoir Mazha Pravas in Marathi, which has been translated in Hindi as Aankhon Dekha Gadar, and also in English by Shanta Gokhale and Priya Adarkar as Adventures of a Brahmin Priest, Shekhar Bandyopadhyay's From Palasi to Partition, and then you can also see NCERT and IGNOU material. So all these things, they can be referred when one is talking about the revolt of 1857. There are other scholars, those who see that how there was some kind of a struggle between the worn out pre-modern feudal class interest and the newly developed commercial capitalism that aimed to achieve political supremacy. This has been expressed by M.N. Roy, and R.P. Dutt talks about that it was a major peasant revolt, and though the feudal forces, they had been it had been led by the decaying feudal forces who were fighting to get back their privileges and turn the tide of foreign domination. So scholars like the people, those who were associated with those who have seen the revolt of 1857 within this particular framework, M.N. Roy and R.P. Dutt, they have communicated, and especially R.P. Dutt sees it as some sort of a peasant revolt, that how they were fighting against the feudal forces. Scholars like Eric Stokes, they studied it from the point of view of popular participation and subsequently popular protest. He attributes rebellion to the caste mobilization as well, and the emphasis was on diversities and variations in revolt. So we find that scholars like Eric Stokes, they also try to see the revolt from the point of view of the popular participation, and at the same time we see that the kind of mobilization with respect to caste takes place has also been explained by him, and the kind of variations which came in the revolt, the kind of diversities which were there in the revolt, they have also been identified, and how the different sections of the society, they were affected by the revolt in varying ways, has also been pointed out by Eric Stokes. And we also find that the kind of ideas which were there with regard to the revolt, they do not remain bound by strictly the economic explanation, but other factors like ecology, culture, mentalities, all of them, they have also been talked about by the scholars, those who have tried to understand revolt. P.C. Joshi, he talks about the British policies, that how they created disaffection and it instigated a popular rebellion against its rule. and there was a systematic exclusion of Indians from official employment of a superior character, and it was an anti-Indian policy, which was a national factor of great importance. So we find that scholars, they have seen that how British policies, they were creating a lot of disaffection among the masses, and this disaffection was also leading to some kind of a popular feeling of revolt among the masses, and how Indians, they were excluded from the official employment at different levels. They were not given any kind of higher posts in the administration, and this kind of a policy was anti-Indian policy, and it was an important factor which played an important role in that context, that Indians, they were made to believe that from the racial point of view they were not equal to the British, and this racial policy was the hallmark of the colonial rule in India, and at different points they have used this racial policy to oppress and suppress the Indian population. As in the case of education as well, we will find that they communicated to the Indians that Indians were not at all civilized in nature, and how English education is to be given to the Indians, and how English education as well as Christianity, the light of Christianity, will reform the Indians. So Indians, they were seen as some sort of barbaric in nature, and British, they saw themselves as civilized in nature, and the civility of the British will reform the Indians in every possible manner. So P.C. Joshi also talks about the aim of the revolt of 1857, and he communicates that the idea was to destroy the British rule completely and to establish an Indian state in its place, and this makes the revolt of 1857 as a national revolt. So if we find that the religious factor was playing an important role, but religious factor was also part of a national factor, because religion was seen as some sort of a way of life, and Indians, they took up arms to defend their own religion, their way of life, and their social customs, traditions, whatever was being followed by the Indians, it was also part of their religion. So because religion was seen as a way of life, religion was seen as a way of livelihood, so they were trying to defend their life, they were trying to defend their livelihood. All this was done against the British, so it was some sort of a political act. There are other scholars, those who reject this kind of an idea that it was a war of independence, and they communicate that the sepoys, those who were fighting, they were more concerned with any kind of material gain, and the political and religious considerations were not important to them, and it was neither the first war of independence nor it did not have any kind of national character. And R.C. Majumdar is one of the historians who talks in this framework that it was inherently a Muslim uprising, and Hindus were lukewarm in their response. So the Indians, those who have studied the revolt of 1857 like R.C. Majumdar, they reject this idea that it was the first war of independence and any kind of national factor was important. But he can be critiqued from this point of view, that if it was not the war of independence, then why it was seen to be a political act, why the colonial why the sepoys they rose against the colonial masters, why the civil population, it participated in large numbers to support the sepoys. So if we want to see it only as a Muslim uprising, and if we want to see that Hindus, they were not very motivated in terms of participating, then it was not completely true. We will find that in many regions both the populations, because you don't have to divide the population from that point of view, because Hindu and Muslim, both of them, they fought together in the revolt of 1857, and when they were fighting together, then to separate on the basis of the religion at that point of time, when they wanted to remove a foreign ruler, then it is not worthwhile to see revolt or interpret revolt from that point of view. Scholars like S.N. Sen, they communicate that mutiny became a revolt and assumed political character when mutineers of Meerut, they placed themselves under the Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar. So what began as a fight of religion ended as a war of independence. So we find that scholars, they have when they have tried to see the popular character of the revolt, they have communicated this idea that revolt was political in character. You cannot separate the political character of the revolt from the way the people, those who were rebels, they participated in the revolt, and how these people, they came to Bahadur Shah Zafar and placed themselves there and asked him to lead them in the revolt, also communicates the political character of the revolt. And though they might have been initially concerned with religion, because religion was a way of life for the sepoys and for the other general population as well, but at the same time it cannot be discounted that they did not want to free themselves from the colonial rule, and that is how they fought with very rudimentary kinds of implements, with spears and lathis against the colonial rulers, those who were equipped with modern weapons. So if they would have if they did not desire to throw the British out of India, then they would not have participated in large numbers with such kind of implements, where they knew that they would be in a way harmed by the British guns. So they wanted to in a way remove the colonial government, and they wanted that the Mughal ruler in some way should lead them, so that because he was considered to be the rightful representative of as a ruler of Hindustan. Some of the other scholars like Kathleen Gough, she says that it was a restorative movement, and the goal was the complete annihilation and the expulsion of British. Also communicated that the reversion of the process of government and agrarian relations was to be done, and Percival Spear sees it as a last passionate protest of the conservative forces in India against the relentless penetration of West. So we find that scholars, they have seen it as a restorative movement in the framework that they wanted to completely annihilate or exclude the British from India, and they wanted that the earlier agrarian relations which were there during the Mughal period, they should be restored, and the form of government which was there earlier, it should also be restored. And we find that how the Western education, how the Western thought, how the Western ideas, they were coming to India, how they were penetrating India. So the conservative forces, they did not want that this kind of a penetration by the West of their ideas and practices should be done in India. So that is how they protested against them. Other scholars like Joshi, they say that during 1857 uprising, the popular forces were active enough, they were healthy in their aspirations, and they were very clear in their ideas to prevent a reactionary feudal restoration in India. So he argues that the ideas which have been given by the scholars that the feudal order would be restored, then it was a very false kind of a premise, because the people, those who were associated with the revolt of 1857, they were very clear in their ideas and aspirations that any kind of feudal restoration will not take place in India. And in spite of the British machinations in Hindu-Muslim unity was a positive achievement. So the way British, they tried to divide the revolt, the rebels of the revolt, that how this element of Hindu-Muslim idea which could be seen in the later times as well in the form of the divide and rule policy which was followed by the British. But if you see the positive aspect, that both the Hindus and Muslims, they fought shoulder to shoulder in the revolt of 1857, and this idea that they could be two nationalities, how the idea of communalism, which was a modern construct, it was also during the colonial rule. So British deliberately promoted this kind of an idea after the revolt of 1857, where they initially supported the Hindus, and later after 1870s they started supporting the Muslims, so that this kind of a wedge between the two communities could be created, and both of them they should not come together to fight against the colonial rule. So these kind of things they were also being seen during this time, and scholars like Rudrangshu Mukherjee, they have communicated that peasants, the soldiers were the peasants in uniform, and their activities, they had all the characteristics of a peasant insurgency in colonial period, and ideology played more important role than narrow economic factors. So this is what Rudrangshu Mukherjee communicates, that peasants, they had this kind of a consciousness because they came from the peasant families, and their brothers and their parents, they were engaged in agricultural practices. So even they, before joining army, many of them, they were doing they were associated with their agrarian life, they were peasants themselves. So this kind of a consciousness of a peasant was there in a soldier, and soldier was just a peasant in uniform, and when the peasants, they were affected, then soldiers definitely they revolted. We also find that that ideology during this time, it played an important role, and the economic factors, as has been argued by the other scholars, that they were more important. Rather than that, the issue of idea or the ideology, it was more dominant. And Rudrangshu Mukherjee also talks about the kind of violence which was perpetrated by the British, that how British, they resorted to violence when they were in India, and they used violence as some sort of a creed in their entire colonial rule. And 1857 was not an exception from that point of view, where they also resorted to violence, that how they wanted to crush the rebellion in every possible way. And we also find other scholars like Bipin Chandra, who also sees it from this perspective, that Sepoy was a peasant in uniform, and his consciousness and his interest was not divorced from that of the rural population. So the way Sepoy was identifying with the rural population, the way Sepoy was part of that particular rural population because he had come out from that particular rural population. So all these, they have been understood and explained by the various scholars. And mutiny itself was a revolt because it was a political act. And when there is a political act, then we will find that you just cannot see it as a Sepoy revolt, because you will find that there was a wider participation in the revolt of 1857. In the case of the subaltern school, we find that the idea of peasants and their consciousness has been given more importance, and the other factors, they have been underplayed by the subaltern school. And Ranjit Guha, who is one of the important spokesperson of the subaltern school, also communicates this kind of an idea. And on the other hand, there are critics, those who suggest that subaltern school, it overemphasizes the peasant role, and peasants, they could not develop any alternate perspective of their own. So we find that the people, those who support the participation of the peasants in this particular rebellion and in other kinds of rebellions as well, they gave a lot of importance to the consciousness of the peasant. And on the other hand, the people, those who reject the subaltern politics or the subaltern ideas, they say that there was no alternate kind of a perspective of the peasants, and if there was any kind of alternate perspective, then they should have presented it. So it was not available at that point of time. And we also find that in the context of the recent studies, that how recent studies they have tried to see the revolt of 1857 in different pockets. You just cannot see the revolt of 1857 in the context of Delhi, but you have to identify the revolt of 1857 in different regions, in the regions of Awadh, Bihar and other regions where it was very popular, and how the popular sentiment was aroused during the revolt of 1857. How the people, those who participated in the revolt of 1857, they were not liking the East India Company's rule, and they wanted to define in a way their own particular existence, whether it was related to their religion, because religion was their way of life. And this kind of an order where you have to bring a kind of a moral order, where you have to remove the British, which were seen to be the pollutants at that point of time. Some of the scholars like Sabyasachi Dasgupta, They have argued from this perspective that peasants were no longer peasants in uniforms, because uniform itself had transformed sepoys into a new aspiring power elite of Indian society. So there are other scholars in the recent times, those who are rejecting this idea that sepoys were no longer peasants, because now they were donning their uniforms, and their uniforms, they have given some kind of a new status to them, and how they became some sort of a power elite from that point of view. So they were no longer peasants. So these kind of varying ideas, varying kinds of viewpoints, they have been given with regard to the revolt of 1857, and the scholars, the recent scholars, they have given their ideas keeping in mind the kind of changes or in the trends which are taking place in the historiography, as well as the kind of new research which is coming in the form of the regional studies which are taking place in different universities, as well as at the level of the scholars. So we find that how sepoy, they got some kind of a mobility when they were serving in the East India Company, and it was if we see that how sepoys, they were trying to communicate with their colonial rulers, how they tried to later during the revolt of 1857 they tried to communicate with the people, those from whom they wished to be led. They wanted that these people, those who will come to lead them in this way, will bring some kind of a democratic order. So from that perspective, the revolt of 1857 was progressive in nature. It did not intend to go back to the kind of feudal order which has been talked about. And Rajat Ray, he says that rebels, they were constantly referred to people of India as Hindus and Muslims of Hindustan. In it he sees embryonic ideas of a confederate state. Rajat Ray also communicates that it signified a confederation of two separate peoples bound together as one political unit by shared perception of Hindustan as one land. So these kind of ideas, they were also there during this time, that how the rebels, they were seeing the people of Hindustan at that point of time, and this idea of a confederate state was there at that point of time as well. And these kind of ideas, they also communicate that how British they saw the revolt of 1857, how people, they were blown away through the cannons at that point of time, how native villages, they were burnt by the British. So this communicates that how rebels, they were in a way, they were to be taught some kind of a lesson by the British, and rebels, they have to be crushed at every level. That is why either they were hanged, they were also blown away from the cannons, how villages, they were being burnt. So this kind of a violence which was seen during this time, how British, they resorted to this kind of a violence during this time, is also indicative of the fact that British were fearful that they will be toppled. They were also realizing that it was not a sepoy mutiny, rather a lot of civil elements, they were there associated with the revolt. And later it was also realized by Canning, who was a Governor General at that point of time, that the people, those who were in a way supported the revolt of 1857, they acted as some sort of breakwaters in the revolt of 1857. Otherwise the revolt of 1857, in the revolt of 1857, the British, they would have swept away in that kind of a storm. So these kind of ideas, they could also be seen. And when we tend to understand the revolt in a larger framework, we find that revolt was an inspiration to the later generation, and how the national movement which could be seen from 1885 onwards, with the emergence in an organized manner, with the establishment of the Congress, and thereafter the various other political parties which also got engaged in the revolt, in the national movement. So this idea of national movement and the political participation by the different sections of the society in the framework of different political parties was also as a result of the revolt of 1857, because they were seeking all sorts of inspiration to defy the colonial power. If some of the films, we see that how they were inspired by the revolt of 1857. In 1946, there was a film called 1857 by Mohan Sinha, Jhansi Ki Rani by Sohrab Modi, then Shatranj Ki Khiladi in 1977, then Junoon in 1978, Mangal Pandey in 2005, Manikarnika, the Queen of Jhansi in 2019. So these are some of the films which are dealing with the revolt of 1857. There are others as well. So you find that from 1946 onwards till 2009 we are making films which are dealing with the revolt of 1857. So how important this phenomena would have been to the Indians, and how these films they are received by the masses even now that they have been quite popular. And at the same time, these films they also communicate this kind of an idea that films are an important cultural form of communication, and how these films they communicate cultural practices of the people at different levels. And if we tend to understand the 1857 in this framework, that how the 1857 history it has been rewritten, it has been reinvented, it has been remembered, how it has been reimagined at different levels. So there might have been various causes of the revolt of 1857, that how various accounts they have tried to explain the revolt of 1857 in the framework of its nature, how it has been contested at different levels, and how it has been seen in the framework of a mutiny, how it has been seen as a war of independence. So all this at different levels has been understood by the people, those who are trying to unearth the important aspects of the revolt of 1857. And the future research it will also provide the future insights with regard to the revolt of 1857 and the various ideas associated with it. So with it I would like to end the discussion. Thank you.